All right, welcome back. We are game 1116. That's game programming 3 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian, and it's week 10, part 2 of our broadcast. I had a little bit of issues. I rebuilt everything. I had to remove things from Apps Anywhere and put them back because, you know, I'm on a school system. And we're just rebuilding, we're just relaunching Unreal Engine right now, and I'm waiting for this to happen. It had to rebuild all of its shaders because I had to remove Unreal Engine and put it back. Didn't have any shader cache anyway. So that's why it's the way it is. So we have to wait for a second. But one thing what we did was we talked about, I'm just going to bring up Visual Studio to show you that thing one more time. And we haven't verified that this works yet because we're not there yet, but I want to just bring up Visual Studio here just to talk about it. So again, steps we took. We took the following steps when it comes up. First, we followed the PowerPoint, right? Which is what it told us to do. We looked at the blueprints as a guide. We kind of said, okay, this is what we want. We want the blueprint to be very similar to this. This is going to be similar to the blueprint. And this is kind of the net new part that we added, all right? We haven't tested it yet, but this is it. As soon as I launch Unreal Engine, even though it worked, a couple things, what happens is because I deleted the derived data cache and all that stuff, it's always a good practice just to go back and put in some of the defaults that we like. And I'm just going to actually close it down. I'm going to kind of file save all here and close it down. And I still want to launch from Visual Studio. So I'm going to do Control F5. It should work now because we've done everything we have to do. And I want it to work from here. Now, if it doesn't work, like if we get one of these errors, this is where we have to talk about it. Because even though it launched in Unreal Engine, doesn't mean it's going to work. Okay? So this is kind of some of the errors you guys got. And let's take a look and see what the problems are. So when you see this kind of stuff, you see one thing. It says, could not write output file to this, access path denied to this, to Unreal Build Tool. That's always a clue for me that has nothing to do with me, all right? And then incomplete type T optional pointer stuff, when I see incomplete types, that means that I'm missing some kind of declaration, typically. And it says TPP starter project, that's the project, but it's looking here, and what we want to look at is anything we missed. So world, we have a texture, we have all this stuff, and let's see if we missed anything that we have. So I always look for that anyway because I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So, okay, cool. Item states. Did we have access to item state? Yes, because we've included it here in the item.h. There's item state. Okay, let's keep going through this, okay? Character instigator, equipped weapon. All right, equipped weapon, we get it from the character instigator. So all this stuff is good. Action state and character state, we said that we're going to make the main character, if I look at main character here, it includes those two things. But what if I think that these two things are the thing, if I copy them and just if I'm nervous and I want to put it here, it's not going to hurt, it's not going to help because basically they're already included in main character. All right, so that's the thing to note. So even that can't be it. All right. If attachment rules and all this kind of stuff attached to component, right? You can see that it uses this and it talks about where this comes from, and then interact radius to store components. So there's really nothing here that would make me feel it's an issue. Okay, that's number one. The other thing is the main character .cpp. Let's take a look there and see if there's any issues here, right? Because sometimes when we modify one thing, things happen. So from main character.h, what we said was these are the two things we've changed. So I think we haven't really done much in terms of this, and I believe personally it's something else, but Control F5, I want to try it one more time. It's probably going to fail, but I'm okay with failure. I just don't want to be stuck. That's not good, right? Yeah. I just wish it was I just wish we had member declare with override is not override based class member, but that's not us. So we have to look on this side, not this side. This is our project, but we want to look on this side and see if there's any clue character movement component. Okay, so this one, look, this is one where it says character movement component here, it says T optional UMath rotator on this. But character movement component is not us again, because this is character movement component.h. That's not us. So let's keep going. Widgets, events, basic layout, children base, set attribute, input, chord. Just looking through it all, one step at a time, going through it. It's my class.h, clearly not that. And I bet you it's something really dumb, guys, seriously. Task, because you know what we haven't done also? I haven't built this from Visual Studio. I ran it directly into the editor and it ran, but I didn't build it from Visual Studio. So that maybe I can still run it in the editor by double clicking, you know, as an example, I'm building it, but it won't run from here because there's something else that's missing. Vector 4s, like there's a lot of these are all warnings now. Let's turn off these warnings. I don't care about those. I care about the errors. So I don't see anything that kind of pokes its head out at me, you know what I'm saying? I don't see something that's random. So let's go through a couple things. I think one part also that I'd like to look at is main character.cpp. Sometimes, which is funny enough, main character.cpp isn't complete for different reasons. Like for example, we're using spring arm and U component. Let's check to see how those are there. So spring arm is a component that's there, and then U camera component, that's got to be there. There's camera component. It's going to make sure that everything is here. We also wanted to look at these player, local player. We have that. And then we did all these bind actions with these bind actions were input actions. And what we did is, remember, we made a contract, main character.h, right? Because remember, my computer here is not set up like before. I added in a item. Let's make sure a item is included. There it is, item. I also said U and a montage. Let's check to see what I've made everything. Yes, it's there. Spring arm, and this I did. F input action value as a struct. I didn't do that directly, but that should be included in here. Let's add that in. So if I was to type in like include input action value, there we are. There's the one that I'm missing so far. And let me make sure there's anything else. U input action. I'm being very specific here. It's already included, I'm sure, but let me not put that in there anyway. So include. So inputs action.h. These are all things I'm adding in, right? Because these are things maybe I'm missing. And U input mapping contexts. I don't think I need these things because they're probably included, but hey, you know, I'm going to make sure that they're there. Input mapping context.h. These are all the things that directly are I did not include that I assumed were included with the enhanced input subsystem and input component, right? So I've added those in, save all, and then let's try it again. Because again, it's something like that. It's something like where I missed an include, and this version of Visual Studio, the one I have in front of you, is more sensitive to something that I've missed compared to something else. And it also says this, and this always makes me unhappy when I see this because it's something that has nothing to do with me. This has to do with IT, right? So that's what that is. So again, I think what I'm going to try and do is just to move on for today because I don't want to kill myself with all this IT stuff. I think it's IT related personally. I'm going to close down this stuff and just rebuild from this as well one more time and just move on. It looks like I'm going to have to just do, instead of Control F5, I'm just going to have to go in there and I'm going to have to do this every single time today, which kind of sucks, but whatever. Spent a lot of time doing nothing. And not even talking about the lesson for today yet. That's okay, we got lots of time. Our lesson is not big. We know we built, so we're pretty good. And it has something to do with our build system. My feeling is nothing to do with us, it has to do with the build system. That's on my computer right here. One day, and that day is not this day, right? We'll have complete control over the systems that we manage here at Georgian College, right? And then we won't have this issue because I could just troubleshoot a lot more. Do you find it hot in here?
Yeah, it's a bit warmer in here than usual.
Yeah. This is a good sign that it built. If it didn't build, then I would be upset, right? But we're not going to get upset here. We're not doing that today. All right, so back in this, I'm just going to pull up Visual Studio one more time. Open Visual Studio. And back in Unreal Engine, here's the way to test this. So I'm going to go to Blueprints, Items, Weapons, and then Base Weapon. Here it is. And I'm definitely going to do that editor thing because it drives me crazy when it goes into its own window. And what I want to do is in the event graph, here's the test. I want to see if I can get equip item. So if I type in equip item, there it is. You can see that it didn't work. Then I can just disconnect these, right? So I can just kind of press in Alt, click, and I just want to connect these, right? Which is really just this and this. So if this still works, I'm not deleting equip, but if this still works, then we're in business. So that's what I want to test, right? So there we go. Run over, look at the item, pick it up, and strike. So we're good. So that's how I know it worked. So we coded it nicely. It's just nothing to do with me, like I thought. It has to do with here on my computer. That's what it is. Back to Visual Studio. This is a great place to put it up on DevOps. So I'm just going to go to View, Terminal, and we're going to just type that in. And we'll say added equip item function to item class. There we go. Okay? Yay. See you later. Next, let's do the work for today. So today, like we said, we want to do adding an enemy AI, enemy move animations, nav mesh with patrol points, and create a basic patrol action. Some of this is going to be in C++, so we have to do some of that pretty quick. I'm just going to go on. So let's create an enemy. So what I've done is I want to make a brand new folder here under Blueprints called the enemy folder. And inside the enemy folder, it also tells me to make an animations folder. I'll do that now. New folder, animations. There we go. And the first thing it tells me to do is it says, let's make a brand new character called BP underscore enemy of type character. Okay, so again, we'll make a new one, new blueprint class of type character, BP underscore enemy. That's what we're going to be called. And what we want to do is I have a paladin that I'm using for this demo. So if I type in paladin, you can see that SK and paladin comes in. He comes in pretty hot and high. I don't want him. It looks like minus 90 and minus 90 is what I should put here. So minus 90 here and minus 90 here to get that paladin oriented correctly. Paladin is just a character from Mixamo. I didn't make this guy. Like I said, these are all characters that I got right from Mixamo. Pretty cool looking character. Not perfect, but cool. Next, okay, so now that I got the paladin, the next thing is, you know, I want to get some animations, and we need to do some retargeting. So retargeting is interesting how it works. So I want to go into assets, characters, animations. I want to go in there, and inside that folder, like it said, it's asking me to find this one, sword and shield idle anim. Okay, this one. So sword and shield item anim is the one I want. There it is. And then it says retarget animations. So I want to right click here and I want to click on retarget animations. Retarget animations. When I retarget, it's going to bring up this like retargeting dialog box. Okay, this one right here. So the retargeting dialog box is basically saying, okay, so here's my source. The source is the archer. This is the one that the animation was made for. And then this is the destination. So I'm going to type in paladin for this, right? So this is the destination. Now notice there is a difference in height between them. We're going to fix this later. And the first thing is there's two things we retarget. One is the retarget assets. There's a few retarget assets. Some of them are IK, so inverse kinematic assets that we have to do. Rigs basically is what they are. And the other one is from this to this, an actual retarget asset. So if I click on export retarget assets, it's telling me where to put it. It says export them inside the animations folder, right? So that's what I can do. So I can say export retarget. I want to go into blueprints, enemy, animations, and click export. All right. And so what this does is it gives me these three assets, right? So here they are. There's one that's called IK auto-generated source, IK auto-generated target, and the other one is RTG, that's retarget, auto-generated. So it asks me to rename these things, right? When I do that to IK archer source, right? So let's go back to this, IK archer source. And the other one is IK paladin target. Paladin target is the other one I want to go to. So this one here, just renaming them so that they're more in line with what I like. IK paladin target. And the last one is RTG, that's the retargeter from archer to paladin. So again, here, archer to paladin. There we go. And if I open up the retargeter, it kind of looks like this. This is where you can tell where one source is retargeted with the other, right? So that's one thing to note. And notice that the target is on top of the source. You can move the target kind of away. So notice here, again, I'm looking for these control handles. Why can't I see them? Well, anyways, let's move it over. And I'm just going to go to details here. Here it is, target mesh offset. So I'm going to move it on the x-axis here. Just move it across over here so you can see it. So you can see that there is definitely a size difference between the two. Now you don't have to do this. I just did it so I can show you what this looks like. But that is the retargeting. That's what we have. And what we want to do is we want to, still with that retarget window open, I want to look at all animations that have sword and shield. So if I just type in sword and shield in there, and if I go to my retarget window and type that in here, so all sword and shield animations I want to grab because these are all related to the paladin. So these are all the animations. I'm going to click on export animations. I'll pick that same folder. I could put in a suffix. Like sometimes you'll see this in videos where they say suffix retargeted. So I know it's not the same animation as before. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to click on export. And it says, do you want to overwrite existing files? No, I want to not do that, and click export. It creates all of my animations specifically for the paladin. That's what it does. All right. Let's save all those. Okay, so all those animations are fixed. And did I make a mistake? Did I do something different? Oh yeah, a folder named rigs. I forgot to do that. So in the enemy, I want to put a new folder named rigs, new folder. I'll call this rigs. And I want to go into the animations and grab those three assets and just drag and drop them into the rigs folder. There we go. So that way they're separate, right? All right, so I've done all that sword and shield stuff. I exported the animations, and now we have a bunch of stuff. We can make the animation blueprint. So again, what I want to do here is I like to make the animation blueprint right next to the enemy. So I'm going to go here and just make a new animation blueprint. I want to base it off of the Paladin skeleton. There it is. And when I do this, I'm going to call this ABP_enemy. That's the blueprint for the enemy. I'm going to bring this up and you're going to see this. So this is all the same stuff. I'm just catching up to some of you who are already ahead of me. I don't need this anymore. I can close this off. So I'm here, okay? And notice the asset browser. If I go to the asset browser on the left, you can see that all the animations that are available here are the ones that are compatible now with this skeleton, which is pretty cool. So what I want to do here is I want to, before we continue, I want to make a brand new blend space, right, called BS Paladin Idle Walk, right? So the way to do that is you go to your content drawer in the enemy animations, and I can just make a brand new animation where it says blend space like this, and it's going to use the Paladin skeleton, and I'm going to call this BS. What did I call it? BS Paladin Idle Walk. Idle Walk Run, I think is what it's called. BS Paladin Idle Walk Run. That's it. And if I double click it, we've seen blend spaces before, right? Here are the blend spaces. Blend spaces are a great way of doing animations without doing any if statements. So if I run a certain speed, it creates that blend space. That's what it does. So on the left, we have a horizontal axis, and we're going to name this horizontal axis as an example, speed, but it tells me what to do. It says, before we do anything, let's add two sockets, the right-hand socket and the left-hand socket. Okay, that's what it's telling me to do, right, when we made the blend space, right? So that's what I'll do first. The way to get that is a skeleton tree here. You can go to the right-hand socket for the right-click and add in socket called right-hand socket. And the left hand is going to have the same thing. And we'll say this, add socket, left-hand socket. And we can add some preview assets if you want to. I like to do that. So I can do that here. We did that somewhere else in the PowerPoint. But in the left-hand socket, I want to put a shield. So I can type in add preview asset, and I want to put in, if I type in shield, there's going to be 2 or 3 that we can use. There's SK shield and SM shield. I'm going to use this one, right? So that's the shield. And on the right-hand socket, which is here, I want to use preview assets, add preview asset, and this time it's going to be a sword. So SK sword, that one. And now we have those two assets right there, right? So great thing about this when we have these assets is we can adjust them, right? So I've given you the adjustment numbers for them. So this is the stuff I recommend you use. You can fool around and move them around if you like, but I ain't going to do that. So I'm just going to grab these numbers. So for the X, Y, and Z numbers, and again, this is the right-hand socket, and you can not, if you want to just do it yourself and just move things around for practice, because you won't have these numbers when you do your own game, right? I mean, this is just for ease of use more than anything else, right? Because that way it's like, I've already done this. Why would you want to redo it if I've already done it, kind of thing, right? So that's why I'm doing it for you. But again, all I did was I moved the sockets around, the items, just to make sure that they work with the Paladin. So that way, when he's actually using them in combat, they're going to look pretty good, right? I think it's, did I make a mistake? Because that looks off. It definitely looks off. Hold on a second here. That looks way off. Why is that like so? Maybe the numbers are typed in wrong. -9, it's this, 5.4, -6.3. 89 minus 6.698. It's not right. It should be somewhere else. We can also preview. We can have a preview animation for this. A lot of times, what I like to use instead of having the default, I can use a specific animation, and we know that there's animations that are compatible. I can use something like idle, right? So sword and shield idle anim, and you can see now a little bit more accurately where we want these things. So yeah, definitely off somehow. And we can stop the animation so we don't have to put that animation on. What's weird? Right hand socket, yeah, weird. Okay, whatever, I'll just adjust it manually. It's one of these comedy of errors today. So there we go here and put that in place. All I'm doing is I'm putting it in place just like you would if you were doing it manually here. So it's going to be like in here. And I like to angle this a bit, so we're just going to angle it this way. Let's just take off this so we can kind of angle it. So it's kind of angled his way. There we go. Weird. That was weird, man. Because normally I'm pretty good with that. Okay, so there we go. So there's I could have done it simply like that too, but whatever. All right, so that's the sword, and now the shield is clearly off. So again, for the shield hand, I'll just do it manually now, since like I don't trust those numbers somehow. So the way to do it manually, again, he needs to rotate the shield this way. So we're just going to click on rotation, and we're going to rotate the shield maybe like this. And then we're going to also rotate the shield like this. So it's kind of aligned with him, and we're going to also look at the, oh, that's the other way around, sorry. Shield should be actually, this is the band that goes around the forearm. It should be actually like this, sorry. This is the thing that he's going to hold on to, and then we're just going to move this across this area here and just manually make it so that at least he's holding on to it with his hand and it's not penetrating his arm. Right? Because the shield's not made for this guy, right? He's got a big fan brace, or whatever you want to call it, like his stuff, and also his animation stuff. So we're going to rotate the shield a little bit more, bring it out a bit more this way, and bring it out so it doesn't actually intersect with his arm. That's not bad. I'll accept that. Okay, so it's not perfect. Like the shield is probably a little bit too big for him. You can see that the handle for the shield is big and this part is big, but it's okay. There we are. Okay, so that looks like what the shield would look like. And I use a reference pose for this because I find it's just easier for me to do that than when he's not. When he's in a pose like this, if I go back to the default and he's like this, that's hard to really see if it's correct, right? Although maybe I can see that he's kind of cutting up there, but we might be able to just angle it a bit. No, undo. Just angle it a bit this way more, just a touch. All right, so now that we have this part done, let's go back to this. Now we're going to configure the blend space. We're going to call the horizontal axis ground speed. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to set it to 300. So back to the asset details. Horizontal axis should be called ground speed, and 300 is going to be the range. So from 1 to 300 as opposed to what we had before. There we go, 300. So you can see 300 is here and 0. We don't need the vertical axis, and we can't really get rid of it here, but I'm going to show you how you can do it in the animation blueprint where you don't need to see it. Okay. Next, we want to drag in the first one. So the first one is going to be the idle animation. We can actually just filter for this. So I'm going to filter for this one. And I'm going to grab this idle animation and pull it right to the left here, like way over here to the left. Click on the node, and it should be really 0 and 0. That's where this should go. So that's the first one. And the next one is called this. Again, I'm just filtering for the animation. So I'm putting that in here to find the specific animation that I'm looking for, and then dragging it into position. And it's going to be ground speed 125. So it's going to be 125 here and 0, like there. And then the last one is the sword and shield forward anim. And there we go. And drag that out near the end. So that'll be like, if I click onto this, that'll be 300 and 0. Okay, so there it is. So how do you test it? If you press Control, take a look at this. If I press Control and move it, you can see that he's going to be moving in a certain place. I can actually play it. So let's play the animation. If I use Control, right, he's walking here when he's there, and then he goes back into an idle state when he's not moving. All right, so here he is. You can see, depending on his speed, right, and I can make this a little smaller so you can see him better and a little bit more screen real estate than we had. Here we go. I know Josh hates when I say that. But if I go here and if I go like this, look, if I'm here at 0, if I use my Control key, see this little funny X right here? I can move this funny X anywhere I want to simulate, right here, Control, and I can move it so that I can see what it looks like when he's in walking and what it looks like when he's running, okay? Looks pretty good, actually. Okay, he's not, you know, clashing with himself or whatever. So that's it. That's your blend space save. Now that we have our blend space, let's close that down. Here we go. And what I want to do is I want to make a new state in the animation blueprint called main states. So state machine is what we want. Here's main states. And main states is going to go through the default slots. Here's the default slots. And we can connect all these and make them all straight by pressing the Q button, save, and compile and save. So you can see that this is running through this. Here's main states. If I double click on main states, we have one entry, you know, kind of thing. And that one entry is going to be called idle walk run. That's all he's going to be able to do. So again, new state. It's going to be called idle walk run. And inside the idle walk run, I'm going to have this output pose, and I want to pull in that blend state. So here's that blend. Right, now notice here, now this is something to look at, guys. I didn't put this in the PowerPoint. See how we have ground speed and none? I don't want those two, right? So if I click onto this, right, on the right, you can see some stuff that you have, right? So one thing is that you have ground speed and it says pin. And the other one that says none and there's a pin. You can actually choose that and say don't expose. So I actually click on this and then that pin goes away. So we don't care about that. All we care about is ground speed, right? So there we go. So compile and save. We don't have ground speed right now, right? We don't have ground speed. And by the way, it looks like this because it shows you a little map of what each of these things are, right? So this is good. And now what we want to do is go back into the event graph here. Here's the event graph. And what I want to do is I want to cast to BP underscore enemy. This is the class that's going to be using my animation blueprint here. Here we go. And from there, I want to save this, promote this to variable. We'll call this enemy. There's enemy. So again, I'm just following the PowerPoint just like you. And then from there, I want to get character movement. So if I say character movement, there it is. And I also want to save that as character movement. So I'm going to promote that to variable. There we go. Okay. Here's my character movement. And then when I have character movement, I can get velocity. So I can get velocity from character movement. And from there, I can get the XY, vector length XY, right, which is really ground speed. I can promote this to a variable, We'll call this ground speed, right, there we are, ground speed. And that is what we want to plug into. I'm going to say compile and save here. I want to plug in ground speed into my blend space. So I'm going to go back to my idle walk run, and I'm going to grab that ground speed variable and plug it in. So now we have a ground speed. Depending on the ground speed, then we're going to have all that put in. Okay, so that's it. And that is pretty much the end of our animation blueprint, because that's all we need to do. Once we have our animation blueprint, we can attach it to the enemy. So again, I can close off animation blueprint. I can go back to the enemy, and where it says mesh, I can actually attach the animation blueprint. So the ABP enemy is the animation blueprint, and the character wants to have that, but unfortunately for the our lovely AI, it doesn't have a sword or a shield. Let's add them in. So for the sword and the shield, let's add in two meshes. one called the sword mesh, and again, they're both skeletal meshes. So, and they'll be children of the mesh component. So I'm going to add in skeletal mesh. We'll call this sword mesh, and another one, skeletal mesh. We'll call that shield mesh. And for the sword mesh, we'll get the sword. So we'll get that SK sword. There it is. And it's way down there. And what we'll do is the parent socket will be the right-hand socket. So I can say right-hand socket, and it'll snap right to his hand, like this. Okay, so you'll see it kind of comes in there. And for the shield, I'll do the same thing. I'll add in the shield. So shield. And once I have his shield, then I can just snap to his left-hand socket. And now we have both those two things in their full glory. And this is exactly what we kind of did before, and that's how your guy should look inside his blueprint. Compile and save. Pretty good. Nice and fast. So we want to drag a copy of this dude into the level, but we can see that he's going to be too short. Okay, so let's do that. So, and then we're going to put this up on DevOps in a second. So again, I'm going to go back to my enemy, grab my paladin, put him in. Let's put him somewhere next to the wall. And if we run, take a look here. If I run next to him, my dude runs next to him. He's like a short little guy, like really short. Take a look.
Something on my face short?
Oh, he's really short though, this guy. Like, I mean, my archer is taller than this guard, right? So to fix that, what we can do is go back to the BP underscore enemy and change these scale values. Let's use the lock here on the scale, and we can lock it so that it changes all of them 1.2, and now they're all 1.2 in size. The entire, well, let's actually do that. How about that? We just do it for the, let's change that back to 1. Hold on a second. Lock 1. I meant to do it completely wrong. Of course, unlock 1.2. Lock 1. Sorry about that. I meant to do that here for the entire enemy, not just there. So let's lock that and just go 1.2. There we go. Now he's completely scaled up. So compile and save. And now when we test him out, you can see that even his instance is also scaled up. And now he's taller than us, and I like that. I want to make him mean and like, you know, I want to be afraid of him, you know, kind of thing. So that's the enemy so far. He's kind of sunk into the ground. I really don't like that. So we're going to bring him up a little bit here. So he's there. And I also want to rotate him so that way we can see him in all of his fine glory. Something that looks like this. So there is the paladin enemy right now. And this is the one that we're going to be using today. Okay, good. So now this is a great place to, you know, to go and put it up on DevOps, all right? And take a short break too, because we just did like all this shenanigans with my Visual Studio that failed. And by the way, we're also going to add in the AI module, so we might as well close down Visual Studio, close down the editor and go to Visual Studio anyway. So File, Save All, and we're going to close this down. And then what I want to do is in Visual Studio, I want to do git add dot, git commits -m will say added the enemy blueprint and related animations. Okay, so I did all those things, and I'm pushing this all up to DevOps. When we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the AI module. Okay, so what we want to do AI from C++. And in order for us to do any kind of thing from C++, especially AI, we need to enable the module. If we don't enable the module in C++, then AI will not be functional. And again, we know where that's going to be. It's going to be right inside of the build right here is where we're going to do it. All right, so we're not going to do it yet. We're going to come back, and when we come back, I'm just going to do it right next to enhanced input. Okay? So let's take a short break, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes, and we'll continue.